Hey, and welcome to the ThawedCast with your host, Philip Ehlke here. And also, I'm joined by my brother, Dawson.
Ehlke.
Yeah, how are you doing, Dawson?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Doing pretty well. And this is a show where we talk about animation, the ThawedCast, conversations about animation. Welcome. This is our inaugural episode where we'll be talking about the TV show Star Wars Resistance. So, Dawson, what is Star Wars Resistance?
Star Wars Resistance is a Disney Channel show for children. It's Star Wars. There are characters, and it takes place before the events of The Force Awakens. And what do you think it is? You go for it.
No, I'm just curious your thoughts on this new addition to the Star Wars canon. Of course, it's been how many years? It's 2018 now. They announced new Star Wars from Disney. The Disney merger took place, what, October 2012?
2013.
2013?
A significant. Well,
Yeah, October 30th, 2012, Disney announced a deal to acquire Lucasfilm for $4.05 billion.
Anyway, they got it. You all remember, and we were all excited for more Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And then no one was excited anymore.
Well,
after a few years.
Blanket statements are fairly irrelevant at this point because it's just so massive. There's so many different facets of Star Wars fan community, and Star Wars fan has so many different meanings now.
Yeah, that's funny. That's very true.
And now there's kind of a huge overlap with people who are also big Disney fans, big Disney parks fans. We're going to be seeing a huge representation of Star Wars.
Is Disney parks a fandom?
Oh yeah. It's
what?
huge.
Are you like? Are they like architecture nerds or park like? Oh, I love the how magical everything is, or are they like? They're just like really like digging deep to what is a Disney park, and they like learn all the maps and the secret passageways.
Well, it's like role playing, because being in a Disney park is sort of like immersing yourself into a storybook or a film.
Oh, that's nonsense. I mean, in different, you can do that in different like parts of it, maybe a little bit, but like, it's so obviously not a story, because one minute you're shaking hands with a big fluffy Mickey Mouse, and then there's A Bug's Life, and then there's Elsa. It's all just this conglomeration of. It's a soup. It's just a Disney soup. You're swimming.
You can't get that anywhere else. There's really nothing like it, and of course, there's also great rides and
it's just
opportunities.
Fun.
And it's a great food. It's just it's an escape, vacation.
For sure.
Place on
wonderful, and immerse yourself in the legacy that is Disney itself. Yeah. But like role playing while you're there, like I'm a character, and these are all characters, and
it's not necessarily role playing by the consumer. By the attendee, it can be. There
you roll
definitely
a D20 to see if Mickey will hug you. If you can roll for initiation to rip Goofy's mask off, kiss Elsa.
That's a different kind of role playing, but right. Sure. I mean, it's a way to interact with something that could otherwise only be consumed in a very passive manner. Via visual media, and some people are very drawn to that sort of tactile, immediate sense of being in the presence of these things that were otherwise only available visually.
Like, you saw the film, now experience the ride. Like, that's pretty much what was in all the previews for the Universal Studios movies, of course. Or so when are they going to make like David Lynch Land, where you can experience the magical worlds of Dune and Twin Peaks? And
I have a theory, and your David Lynch idea. I think once we are able to say generate quantum phase shift generators that like enable us to walk through portals into an alternate dimension, like matching our own reality and being able to construct large, elaborate parks within these sort of alternate dimensions, within these portals. We could have, say a superposition of multiple different parks in one geographic space.
So we invent interdimensional travel to make theme parks. John Hammond had a dream. We've discovered how to access alternate dimensions, and we're going to use them to save space on Earth for theme parks. We want to make so many theme parks, but there's not enough landmass, so we need to go.
There really is
another dimension.
No, and it's like that. Well, did you see Valerian?
Oh no, I haven't seen Valerian yet, but I really want to. I know someone's hand gets like caught in another dimension, and that sounds funny.
Yep, there's a scene where there's like a shopping mall in another dimension. So it'd be like that, only for a theme park.
Oh, I love that. I mean, I love the idea that like on Earth there's just like a doorway, and it takes like up no space, and then you walk into it, and then of course suddenly you're in massive, like any the TARDIS stuff or the Harry Potter tents and Grimmauld Place. Anytime you bend space and time and reality to make more, to have a space within a tiny space, that's awesome. That's what a fun idea. I hope we achieve that someday.
Yeah. Well, but
so we can make more Disney parks.
In the meantime, when the landmass is limited, it's only the most in-demand products that are able to receive such treatment. And
for the
Star
record,
Wars,
I don't want or need a David Lynch theme park. There is actually a small a woman's like coffee shop was failing, so she turned it into a Twin Peaks museum, and then she got a ton of business. And that's right here in Minneapolis, actually. I haven't been to it yet, though.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, yeah.
Well, taking us to the platform, or what do they call it? Isn't that the name of the setting of Star Wars Resistance?
The Colossus.
The Colossus. Okay, yeah, it's like an oil drilling platform.
Yeah.
Set.
Is it an oil drilling platform, or is it just a big hangout for racers, or is it really a Colossus? Like, is there a shining emblem on it somewhere that Kaz has to find and stab it, and then he'll release the spirit and help rescue his dead girlfriend?
Yeah.
Aquarius is it named Aquarius or something? Let's dive in, shall we? It's a wretched hive of scum and villainy. We're going to see a cantina full of scuzzy characters, because you've never seen that before.
Colossus, an aircraft on planet Castellon. Does that sound right?
Castellon. Actually, that does sound right. It sounds, familiar.
Okay.
That's a cool name.
I read it and I immediately saw Castilian, but I think it's Castellon.
Is the whole planet an ocean? Did you find that on the wiki? Like Camino? Why wasn't it Camino? Should have just, or maybe because Camino's always dark and stormy.
Camino's largely unknown. Let's see.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, it didn't appear on the records, but after the Clone Wars and maybe people investigated where the clones came from, maybe then they completed the Jedi archives and got Camino back on the map. Prime real estate out there for building giant platforms for racing, for Ratchet and Clank races.
Well, I don't think it ever really was brought in, back into the Republic or the Empire. It was.
You go there in Battlefront, too, right? As the stormtrooper, because the Kaminoans, they create like a phase 2, like Attack of the Clones to like mount a resistance, but then you go and exterminate them all, and it's really sad.
That's all in Legends now.
Oh, shush. You stop breaking this poor boy's heart. No.
So Resistance. It's set on the Colossus platform on the planet of Castellon, which is full of oceans, possibly land too. There's not much known about it as of yet. Of course, the story's still being told. So Dawson, we saw the first 3 episodes of Star Wars Resistance. titled The Recruit.
And the Triple Dark.
The Triple Dark.
That's a cool title. I thought it was going to be this amazing, like, unveiling of a conspiracy of, like, gangs and pirates in the First Order, like the Triple Dark, and each dark it was a storm. Triple Dark was a storm.
And then, Fuel for the Fire. So based on these, I enjoyed Clone Wars and Rebels. As a huge Star Wars fan, like, I've always kind of invested in knowing as much as I could about the Star Wars saga and its
you killed that lore. Star Wars Trivia Pursuit, man. Like, you knew everything. I knew almost everything. But there were so many subtle details. Of course, that game was only original trilogy edition, because I mean, we watched the crap out of those. I mean, I had them all memorized at one point, and then you get older and your memory, which is annoying. But so good old holocron keeper there, and I think, and you knew a lot about the legends too. Like, you read way more books than I did, and there were all the Jedi Knight games and different.
I followed along quite a bit with a lot of the continuity. I didn't read a lot of the books as they came out, because there just got to be so many, so overwhelming. But I kept tabs on where things were in the chronology of Star Wars.
I did to a point too. Like, because it was fairly straightforward to trace at least the family lines. Like, I mean, there was, I know the canon was, I mean, I get that there was a lot of material and it was kind of confusing, but there was an effort to keep things straight across the books to a significant degree. And I mean, there was even a guy hired on as the keeper of the holocron, and he was, made sure everything. I mean, so like this, like Luke was married to Mara Jade, and he had a son named Ben, and Han and Leia had Jason and Jaina and Anakin Solo, and the Yuzan Vong War. Like, there was a lot of, maybe right before Disney acquisition, like, did people go back and just like retcon or involve time travel to like kind of make things their own way? But I had thought, even though there were so many books, they had to stay relatively consistent within a straightforward narrative of at least kind of the family lines and significant events.
They did, and they didn't do a terrible job. There was a lot of stuff early on in the development of the expanded universe that definitely conflicted with stuff that came later, and just as the prequels came out, just new information was being revealed all the time, making it difficult to really cohere a lot of the ancillary material with what was definitely considered canon.
The pure prequels probably didn't affect a ton. I mean, I know the Zahn trilogy referred to the Clone Wars obviously in a different way than what ended up happening.
I mean, I thought there was a way they could potentially salvage the expanded universe, but
I thought they were going to attempt to salvage aspects, and they kind of, there are little bits and stuff, but I mean,
I like kind of the way it is now, where Star Wars Legends is now just a compendium of just references, source material that new creators working within Star Wars can draw upon in order to tell new stories that fit within the current chronology.
So they dig through a pile of ashes and corpses and pull out pulsing organs and make a Frankenstein's monster out of it.
Yep. Well, in the spirit of Halloween, sure, but like, no, to put a more accurate spin on it, it's like the candy bag. You can just pick and choose, what flavors, what ingredients you want to add to any new stories being told from all the stuff that's come before. It's just a bunch of random stuff that you can use, and people have been doing that.
It's a bunch of Star Wars is a bunch of random stuff you can use. I'm quoting
Star Wars Legends.
Star Wars, well, which was Star Wars for so long.
Yeah, I mean, in the mind of the general public, the general fan base, I mean, all that stuff was very obscure. And then now we've got a lot of the new material in the form of course, the new films and the TV series and the upcoming live action series, that will generally be a lot more like regarded and widely received than
okay. It will be generally regarded or widely received. Oh, well, in general, well, yes, because movies. Well, it's easy to keep a story straight if it's only 9 movies, I mean, I guess in a TV show. Then I mean.
Yeah, I'm speaking from a completely unbiased standpoint right now. I'm not injecting any of my thoughts on or opinions on.
Yeah, I thought you said well received. I thought you said this is all going to be widely well received.
Received as official. Yeah, well received as official chronology, and whether you necessarily enjoy some of these offerings has no bearing on whether it's canon or not.
Right, of course. I'm with you there.
So, and that's my approach to Star Wars. I'm just along for the ride. Unless I'm actually telling these stories, I have no stake in what is ultimately considered canon or not.
Yeah, and no, of course.
My love of Star Wars is not contingent upon really anything that they introduce into the story moving forward. But I enjoy these stories that are being told in the likeness of Star Wars, just simply based on a lot of the nostalgia and iconography. And I can say the same for Star Wars Resistance. I enjoy watching the show. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
I don't. No, I don't. And I want to preface everything by lately philosophically, as I love storytelling, I love movies, I love a lot of things. I want to be in the movies, and I think about storytelling and movies and books, everything a lot. The utility of negativity is something I'm really like. If someone doesn't like something, do you need to like watch 40 YouTube videos about it, or do you need to like how much do you need to nurture and stew, like a negative opinion? I mean, because obviously negative and positive opinions are equally valid, potentially equally valid. But just like, it's not, I mean, I don't want to like sit in, I would much rather sit in positivity than sit in negativity. That doesn't mean I don't want to have like an intelligent conversation about something. And it doesn't mean I want to shut down anyone's opinions or stifle my own opinions. But yeah, like, I don't know. I think people do. It's psychologically love to nurture and stew over things that they don't like. And it can be really fun to, if something's terrible and you hate it, it's obviously a lot of fun to malign something for a while, but eventually you just kind of gotta, I don't know, step away from all that. So Resistance, it's not all bad. I don't think it's all terrible. Nothing is anything. I mean, maybe some things are, but no, I didn't really care for it. I borderline can't stand the animation style. So right off the bat, just what it looks like, how it feels is unattractive and unappealing to me. So that's a huge barrier to, then the story and the characters, because it's not pleasant to look at all. In my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when the first trailer came out, and it got like really negative reaction on YouTube, and yeah, I just wasn't really sure how it was going to go. I mean, but of course that's a totally different audience than the target audience on the Disney Channel, and DisneyXD, I believe, is the main network.
So that's an interesting question. I mean, who are they targeting because it's Star Wars, and who are they targeting because it's Disney Channel? Like, is that?
Yeah. I mean, it's a Disney Channel show. Of course, the first episode premiered on Disney Channel, and then subsequent episodes are airing on DisneyXD. Similar to, I believe, Star Wars Rebels, as well as another show that I want to bring up in reference to this. It's kind of similar, but yeah, like you're marketing to an audience of Disney XD viewers versus YouTube is a lot of just general Star Wars fans.
Yeah, so right, so it's just on straight up Disney Channel, isn't it? 'Cause, like, when I played the video, it was, and now it's Disney XD, or
the series premiered on Disney Channel and later debuted on Disney XD. So I think, yeah, it all episodes apart from the premiere will be airing on Disney XD. Yeah, I don't have Disney XD. I just, we've watched these on iTunes. Yeah. Yeah, we don't have cable. But yeah, like it for people who are reviewing it for what it is, an animated show on Disney XD, it's received a generally positive rating. The average rating on Rotten Tomatoes among the critic reviews is 6.72 out of 10, 91% positive, and audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 76% liked it. I can't really trust any real metrics out there from an audience perspective with kind of the way that Star Wars fan base has been going lately, because there is a lot of contention within the Star Wars fan base. So I think there's a lot of bias.
I mean, maybe there's bias, but I mean, I hope most people just are, they like what they like, and they don't like what they don't like, and they want what they want and don't want what they don't want. I think it can be fairly simple.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the show looked kind of good when I first saw it on YouTube. Because I really enjoyed the show Tron Uprising on Disney XD. I don't know, did you see that?
Yeah, I did too. I remember enjoying it. Yeah, that was kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it was a very different color palette. It was the same kind of cell shaded art style, the animation style.
This one at least doesn't have the choppy frame rate, so it's got that going for it. But
yeah. You noticed that?
Yeah, I don't remember if Uprising did. I thought it might have.
It kind of did. Yeah, it was sort of choppy and but I mean, it was meant to be kind of lo-fi looking. It was set between the first two Tron, or the first Tron and Tron Legacy, and the characters' faces were still in black and white, but they had colorful outfits.
Oh yeah, black and white faces. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. But it was actually the same animation studio, Polygon, that did the animation for Tron Uprising.
Okay. As for Resistance?
Yeah, Resistance.
Oh.
There's a common DNA between those two. So I definitely was a little optimistic going into Star Wars Resistance. I wasn't immediately turned off by the style, but it is, it's highly saturated, very, bright colors.
It's blinding.
Yeah. Blue skies. Yeah. Set in this sort of tropical environment.
Yeah, the dingy street racing, dark industrial colossus. How tropical. It's not, and of course, things don't have to be dark in order to be good. So I'm happy that it's fine that it's light, and in the daytime that's no big deal. It's just everything shines and glows and is bright and is overly simplistic and glossy and smooth and round and weird looking, and I don't know. I'm also a big fan of Clone Wars. But even Clone Wars, I didn't like the animation style that much. But it was but I got accustomed to it. And then Resistance was that's a step down, and now this is even further terrible step down in my opinion. But
Rebels, you mean?
Yeah.
Step down. Yeah, Rebels.
A step down from Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if that has to do with expediency. Is it quicker and easier to animate shows that look like this? Because that's the path to the dark side. So
no, definitely. I mean, this is a cost-saving measure going this route with animation. That isn't quite as well, it's
Sophisticated?
not in any way photorealistic. The Clone Wars had certain assets that were photorealistic, but obviously highly stylized. And then Rebels was a little bit more plasticky, little more organic looking, but not as kind of realistic looking, texture wise and lighting wise. And then this has gone just full cell shading, kind of trying to provide a classic 2D animation style look, but using computer animation, CGI. Because it's very hard. Like, as we'll be discussing on the show further, like classic traditional 2D animation is just becoming less and less the norm, especially it has been in film for many years now. It's been such a rarity to see it in cinematic presentation, but on TV it's held out quite a bit longer, but even that's starting to go away.
And that doesn't mean they're all always like, it's not like 2D animation is amazing and 3D animation is crap. Like, that's not at all the discussion. I mean, it's just, there's higher quality and lower quality on both sides. So it is really interesting to be in this kind of awkward phase of storytellers deciding how they want to tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know if we've mentioned it right now on the podcast, but we are going to be discussing The Dragon Prince, which is a new animated show on Netflix. And it's so interesting to compare to just purely in terms of animation style, because they're both misses for me, but in different ways. And it's like, it's just interesting to kind of watch animators. Well, no, like I said, storytellers. You want to tell a story. How are you going to do it? And it's like, this is what they come up with. And it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. With animation being as labor intensive as it is, there's always a profound incentive to reduce costs. And it's always a struggle to try to raise quality to the level of what you see in things that have come before, because there really is no limit to the amount of polish you can put on an animated product. You have to just kind of accept at a certain level when costs become too extreme.
And I just wonder why or how that's happened. Like, if in animation in general, the idea is we can't make the quality that we used to. It's too expensive and we don't have the talent. Like, is that the problem? Or, I mean, because you'd think Disney and Star Wars, they should be able to just sink whatever the heck they want. In order to make the best possible thing that will attract the most audience and get the best reward. Like, is sparing some expense gonna bite them in the butt in the end? Like, is that?
Well, it is a tough compromise, because you could justify the cost by having a really hit show, but if that show declines in ratings and reception, you ultimately could end up taking a big hit. Sort of the constant dilemma of television animation in general. Is so frequently the case where you'll have a show that's very well received, but it just gets canceled prematurely because it is such a hefty investment on the part of the network.
Danny Phantom, I just researched the other day because I started watching that. That was immensely popular, but only had 3 seasons because it was too expensive to make. But he wants to make it again, and there's a huge audience. Dude, I mean, Kickstarter is going to be the way of the future, isn't it? Like, just direct audience funding for things, because then a guy can say, I have a story idea and I want to make it this way. And then only the people who are going to like it are going to give them the money to get the go ahead. And then then it'll be good enough that it'll draw even more of an audience. I don't know, maybe that's a huge jump to say Kickstarter is the way of the future, but it just seems like in entertainment, especially in animation, unless you're making mainline Disney films, like, who's going to, I mean, I don't know.
It's not so much that Kickstarter is the way of the future as it is that, computer animation and simulation is the way of the future.
It should be getting easier and easier to make, right?
Trying to come up with ways to procedurally generate content that looks like it's hand drawn. I mean, this show, Star Wars Resistance, as well as the Dragon Prince, which will be next episode, are attempts at doing just that.
And they don't look like they're hand drawn. They look like they're computer animated, and they look, well, Resistance looks, in my opinion, bad and unappealing, and Dragon Prince is a little more appealing in my opinion, but suffers from a lot of hiccups and also has some weird colors and whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's steps in that direction. I mean, they're not, neither show I don't think is specifically trying to push the goalpost towards being able to fully
they're not pretending that it's the same thing, but they're going for that aesthetic, like admittedly so. I mean, how many times has Resistance been advertised as anime inspired?
Yeah, and to kind of round out this discussion on sort of the evolution of
2D, I know nothing
2D animation. I
know some things. I went to school for it for a year, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we're both very kind of familiar with this subject, and we'll also be talking soon on the show about Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was
the best show of all time.
Yeah, it was definitely the genesis of a lot of interest in ambitious serialized shows for kids using animation, and shows that have a lot of thematic weight to them, and aren't necessarily just superhero shows, because that was the only thing before Avatar that had a lot of real connection and impact with audiences outside of young kid demographic.
Can you imagine what it's like to be an ace pilot? This is your chance to make that true.
I've got a mission for you.
Yes!
Blend in, find out who's loyal to the good guys and who isn't.
What was that?
What was what?
The throwing and the falling. Over there.
Don't think about it.
All right, so what did you think about Star Wars Resistance? Why didn't it appeal to you?
Well, animation first off, just the style and the look of it and everything, and then the really awkward, abrupt title crawl, Star Wars Resistance, and then into the action, I guess you could say. It started off, here's this kid, he's got such an annoying voice, Kaz, always up here. I don't know what's going on. I'm so confused and I'm cocky, but I'm actually not the best fighter. But depends on who asks me. I am the best starfighter pilot in the galaxy, and just a complete dunce and an oaf. And then there's these glimmers of like there might be some interesting family back, with his like relationship with his dad and stuff. But that it was I don't know. That's really confusing because like my dad always wanted me to be something I'm not. But you started the show flying an X-wing for the New Republic, isn't that? I mean, how was that? So like we've got this protagonist. He's flying intel for the New Republic, and then it started like an MMO. If you've ever played a massively multiplayer online game, you begin your adventure. You're an adult, but you're for some reason, whatever you've done in your life has only led you to be a level 1. And even though you're a level 1, you're in some situation where the king of the towns says, I need help with something. And hey, you citizen, you're the only one who can do this. So of course, Poe Dameron shows up, the hero of the Resistance, in the middle of nowhere in space, and helps get this and fights off the Red Baron. That was pretty cool. And then
I thought that was a cool maneuver that Kaz did, where he like flipped his X-wing vertically.
I thought that was really slow and boring and dumb and stupid.
I mean, it was
Look how fast
I liked how they were kind of taking liberties with the maneuverability of these starfighters, because they're flying in space. They shouldn't simply be limited to the same types of maneuvers that planes are capable of in an atmosphere. So I thought that was refreshing.
I don't really remember what all the maneuver was, but I remember it was like, oh yeah, here's the part where the clever kid does the clever maneuver, and it's supposed to be really fast and exciting, but the animation style was really just like slow and kind of laborious and like molassesy. And because did he rescue Poe, or did Poe rescue him, or was it kind of a mutual rescue? I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, Poe definitely rescued him because his ship was disabled, and then Poe came in to intercept the TIE interceptor.
Oh yeah. It was so the best pilot in the galaxy. It couldn't. The chase between the two. I don't know. I didn't really buy it. I wasn't really buying it all. It was all kind of silly and whatever. But that's fine. And anyway, but yeah. So then they get to the Tantive 4 or whatever, the Corellian Corvette, and they're inside, and Poe is telling him, gee, like you're really something, kid. You've got it. What counts? And then Kaz says, no, I can't. I just can't. And then Poe's like, all right, well, I'm going to talk to the general. Bye. And then leaves the kid alone on the ship. And then he thinks he needs to like sneak around. Like he's like, I wonder if I can find the general. And he's like sneaking through the hallways, which nobody's in. But it's like, no, Poe, you completed your mission. Poe brought you to the ship and then left you alone. Like you can walk around the ship, man. Like you don't have to sneak like an idiot. And then he stumbled in on the general. And then so like we had Kaz say, no, I need to listen to my dad, or I need to not join the resistance because I can't. And then he stumbles into the general's room because he's curious. And then Poe, and then he instantly changes his mind right there and says, yes, Poe, I will join the resistance. So he resolved his decision in a matter of 4 minutes, and talk to his dad, and he still didn't really know what that relationship is or what's going on. You get a simple, vague idea of it, and then I don't know. So that's specific plot deals right in the beginning, but it just went on, and it's boring. I don't really care. Kaz is annoying. Also, then the green character was annoying, and everyone was kind of annoying. And
the Nikto was his name Niku.
Bolin.
What?
Bolin. It sounds like Bolin from Legend of Korra.
I don't think that's him.
Probably not. But yeah.
But yeah. Kazuto Xiono is the the main protagonist of Star Wars Resistance.
And then Green Starfish faces.
Yeah. Kazuto is played by Christopher Sean. Niku is voiced by Josh Brenner. Jarek Yeager is, of course, the mentor character that Kazuto works for on the Colossus as a mechanic. Jarek Yeager, voiced by Scott Lawrence. So
he repeatedly says, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know anything about mechanics, and then proceeds to work on the ship, and nobody stops him from completely destroying the ships. And then you've got the cocky British, I'm a pro mechanic, and I'm just going to watch you make all these mistakes. And are you a mechanic? Or are they going to help him out? Are they going to teach him what, maybe show him what to do? Or are they just going to keep letting him destroy their ships because he has no idea what he's doing?
He really was, going to town on.
It was so distressing to watch him not know what he's doing and still try that. Oh my God. I've been in carpentry situations before where I've had no idea what I'm doing, and it's like, and the minute my boss knew that, or I needed to use a piece of machinery that was complicated, but he didn't know what he was doing, that was a terrifying, emergency situation. He's like, no, you need to know how this works so that you don't ruin what you're trying to make, and that's so you don't hurt yourself. But no, the mentor and all the other characters were just letting him go at it, and with no experience. It was. Yeah. But anyway, I've talked enough about it. You can go on to your.
Well, he, of course, Kaz, he's a pilot. That's his role, in a pit crew team, say he'd be, or a racing team, he'd be the racer. And then.
He literally said the line, I fly ships. I don't know anything about repairing them.
But even still, he's around ships. So he would know enough to kind of at least have an introductory ability to learn, how to fix them. I'm sure he has
he might know, granted, he might know a little bit, but he's clearly repeated over and over that he doesn't know basically anything, and that he does continue to constantly screw up, and no one steps in to help him. I guess I'm confused why you've got so obviously his cover is that he's a mechanic, but why doesn't the mentor Jaeger say, look, I know you're just a cover as a mechanic, but how about I teach you some valuable life lessons and valuable life skills so that you can, and why don't I give you some cool, clever, instead of just spouting generic exposition at you, and why don't we maybe bond a little bit and get to know each other.
Well, because it's more interesting to watch him, and more humorous to see the moments where he screws up than watch the moments when he's being trained.
He could screw up while being trained, and then at least there's some relationship happening, and then some cause and effect, and you see the character learn instead. Hey kids, you can make a complete fool of yourself, and that's I don't know.
And they acknowledge how his clumsiness could result in his cover being blown. So
maybe that's coming up, like the moment where they're like, all right, kid, like we've had enough of you not knowing what to do well on our team, so we're gonna actually teach you. Well, the moment's coming up where Jaeger and him have the conversation in cars, the sheriff in the town where Owen Wilson's like, what?
Doc
you
Hudson?
Have all these
okay.
Doc Hudson,
yeah,
and then Owen Wilson says, or Lightning McQueen, look at all these piston cups. You were once the greatest racer of all time. Why didn't you tell me? Why are you hiding from your past? And then Jaeger says, because my past got my family killed. I put all that behind me. That's just why I'm not in the Resistance. And then Kaz will remind him of all the talent and how important it is, and then he'll bring Jaeger on board to join the Resistance and believe in something again.
Oh my gosh.
Jaeger will get killed by Captain Phasma.
Star Wars Resistance is Cars. That's what you're saying.
Is Cars. Yeah. Well, no, but just the typical, the mentor is this gruff person that the protagonist doesn't like, but then the protagonist learns more about the mentor's backstory that increases their validity and their relatability, and then they form a bond, and that's probably what's going to happen, but it'll probably be handled poorly, but maybe not. Maybe it'll pick up, be interesting.
Yeah, they do definitely push his incompetence to the limit. Kaz's.
Yeah.
You kind of wonder how he's able to stick around as long as he does. And of course, that's the art of good storytelling. Just keep pushing the tension.
The tension? There's no tension when... the best part was when he was talking about, he was like, should I live with Jaeger in the third episode? And then the creepy old alien at the bar says, you could live with me. That was amazing in a kid's show.
Got a little bit of risque humor in the show. Yeah, you got to check that box.
That was fantastic.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I find this show charming and harmless.
Well, of course it's harmless. I mean, except for the dignity of Star Wars, it's completely damning. But no.
No, I mean,
no, it's fine. Who cares? I just don't care. So I'll keep watching it if I need to for the podcast. Otherwise, I would have no interest. And
this is just our discussion, and then we'll kind of move on to something maybe a little bit more interesting. So this has been our discussion on Star Wars Resistance, the third show in what some people have dubbed the Filoniverse, animated series produced by Dave Filoni, who's been kind of spearheading Star Wars animation ever since Star Wars: The Clone Wars. That was back in 2008, I believe, when the movie came out.
Wow, that long ago.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
3 years after episode.
That was fun when that came out in theaters. And
I mean, it definitely came a long way. It had a very just limited resonance back when it first came out.
That's for sure. I know I totally that could easily happen with this show, for instance. You know, just because I don't find it interesting right now, I could, you know, they could really ramp up the contrasts and the character depth and the you know, the nuance and the dialogue and the characters. It could all get really cool.
Yeah, hopefully introduce some higher stakes. Obviously, with Star Wars, you're dealing with a lot of more mature subject matter, so it's kind of hard to keep things within like the TV Y7 parameters of a show like Resistance.
Yeah, I noticed it specifically Y7. Was Clone Wars always Y7, or was
no,
Rebels?
I think they were all like PG. I don't really know.
PG.
But I mean, they weren't that shy about showing on-screen death and.
Oh my gosh, no, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Shooting stuff and things died, and it was like, yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, that's you know, that's always a big question mark with TV shows aimed at kids. You know, how much content are they going to be willing to you know, portray that does sort of align with the stakes that the show is trying to present dramatically. Star Wars has always been about war and battles, and that comes with the natural consequence of casualties.
Right. And I mean, it did, ever since the original movies, it did an amazing job of telling a fun, adventurous, lighthearted, romantic story while maintaining a sense of those stakes to a degree. I mean, you know, it's no Saving Private Ryan or anything, but I mean, you know, Luke watches all his friends die in the Death Star attack, and that's real. Like, yeah. Anyway.
Well, yeah, and you know, you can keep that fairly appropriate. What's that? Yeah.
Well, that's. Yeah, and yeah, as a kid, I mean, as a 4 or 5-year-old watching that, for me, amazing. Like, because, I mean, there's nothing inappropriate about it for whatever reason, and that's just my opinion. But it all depends on context in the story when it comes to violence, and you know, maybe it's also just me being a traditionalist. Like, well, boys like that stuff, and little boys love guns and, you know, killing.
All right. Well, we love animation here on the ThawedCast. Thank you for listening. If you managed to get through this, we're just kind of doing this as a time to riff on various subjects within pop culture and entertainment. When naming the show, I came up with the analogy of animation being to live action, sort of like fluid is to solid. Animation is sort of the opportunity to have just a fully fluid, immersive world kind of generated from the ground up. You can manipulate at will versus, of course, live action being subject to, you know, far more constraints. And of course, now in our current days of visual media, we are able to, you know, portray so much in film and TV with simply the advent of animation that looks realistic. If we didn't have animation, we wouldn't be able to achieve the sort of visual spectacle that we now see in today's cinema. But on this show, we're focusing pretty much exclusively on entertainment that is told purely through animation, and mostly focusing on the stories and how they impact us. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll be back next week with a discussion on The Dragon Prince, a new show from Netflix, and the head writer from Avatar: The Last Airbender, a show that Dawson and I particularly enjoy. So yeah, thank you, Dawson, for coming on to talk about Star Wars Resistance.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time on the ThawedCast.